I was talking to a buyer recently who wanted to live in Center Grove schools, and they couldn't figure out why some homes were in the 200s while others were 500,000 plus. And here's why. Your budget doesn't just determine if you can buy here, it determines where you can live within the district. And depending on where you look, that difference can be over $100,000. Hey, I'm Brian. I'm a realtor on the south side of Indianapolis. More importantly for this video, I used to be a teacher in Center Grove. I taught there for 20 years, and the district is basically divided up into two sections, which I'll get into, but I've taught in both. My first 8 years, I was an elementary teacher on the north side of the district. My last 12 years, I was a middle school math teacher at the central or south side of the district, so I do have a pretty good feel for the differences between the two sides of Center Grove. Center Grove Schools is one of the most in-demand school districts on the south side. Located in Johnson County, it actually goes between Greenwood and Bargersville. And a lot of people who want to live in Center Grove don't necessarily realize that we're talking about really two completely different areas when it comes to housing. Let me show you what I mean, because this all comes down to how the Center Grove School District is actually laid out. If you look at the map, most people think of Center Grove as just one area, but it actually covers a pretty large part of the south side. You've got the northern part up in Greenwood that extends all the way to County Line Road. Then as you move south, you're getting into Bargersville and more rural areas, and it stretches all the way down to County Road 300. On the west side, it goes out to basically I-69. It does go a little bit past there, but for the most part, we're talking about I-69. And then on the east side, you have Honey Creek Road, which borders that and the Greenwood School District. Now, it's not laid out like a perfect rectangle, so there are areas of jagged lines and places where someone across the street might go to Greenwood, someone across the street might go to Center Grove. It just totally depends, but generally, it's the rectangle that I just laid out. Now, if you're choosing to live in the Center Grove area specifically for the schools, where you choose to live may depend on what phase of life that you're in, what age your kids are. Because it doesn't matter where in Center Grove you live, if you're going to wind up going to the high school, there's only one. So everybody goes to the same school and becomes, at that point, a matter of commute. Do they want a longer bus ride, a shorter bus ride, or they're going to be a car rider, so it doesn't really make any difference. Prior to high school, there's two middle schools. There's Middle School North and Middle School Central. There is a definitive dividing line between North and Central, and we'll get into that in just a few minutes. Then there are 5 elementary schools. Now, elementary, of course, is where you spend the longest number of years if you're starting in kindergarten and going all the way through 12th grade. So perhaps this will make a difference to you on which elementary you want to go to. Now, I will say, having taught in the district, all of the elementaries in Center Grove are very good. If you look at the rankings or the gradings for the schools, they all come out anywhere between A and probably B plus, maybe a B here and there, but for the most part, they're all excellently rated schools. So you're going to be good either way. We're going to start at the north end. So there's North Grove and Pleasant Grove. Both of those are the northern end of the Center Grove area. And it depends on whether you're on basically the east or the west side of the district up there. Then going a little bit farther south, you get into Sugar Grove. A little bit farther south than that, you get into Center Grove Elementary, which is right across the street from both Middle School Central and the high school. So we're definitely in the middle of the district there. The two newest elementary schools are in the south end of the district. That would be Maple Grove and then Walnut Grove. As you can see on the map here, those have a very wide section because in the southern end of the Center Grove district, you wind up having homes that just basically have more space. Now, when it comes to which elementaries feed into which middle schools, it's not exactly cut and dry, but it's pretty close. The northern end, North Grove and Pleasant Grove, both of them definitely feed into Middle School North. So that would be 6th, 7th, and 8th grade heading to Middle School North. Sugar Grove, for the most part, all winds up at Middle School North. But depending on where your house is, you could be on the border where your kids wind up going to Middle School Central. You do have to really dive into the district borders to figure out where that would be exactly. And that does sometimes change as they put up new buildings and population changes throughout the district. That can change. So Sugar Grove is kind of the border school. Center Grove Elementary School, almost all of those kids wind up going to Middle School Central. It's right across the street from Middle School Central, so it makes sense. But There are some on the northern end of the Center Grove Elementary District that may wind up going to middle school north, but again, you'd want to ask at the office about which middle school that would feed into. The southern end with Maple Grove and Walnut Grove, both of them definitely feed into middle school central. So now you have an idea of where the kids would wind up going. And like I said earlier, depending on what phase of life you are in may determine where it is you want to look. Now, depending on which phase you are in, if you are newly married, you don't have any kids, but you're planning to have them soon or in the next few years, you kind of want to keep in mind the flow of where the kids wind up going. If you're already at a stage where you have kids, well, then that would definitely kind of determine which school you want your kids to be at. And you're definitely getting closer to the middle school years if you already have kids that are in elementary school. So definitely keep that in mind. But if you have high school kids, it really doesn't make any difference because they're all going to Center Grove High School. Now, once you zoom in a little more, this is where things really start to matter for buyers. Most people end up in one of two main areas: what feeds into middle school north up here or middle school central down here. If you're going to be in the middle school north district section, you're definitely, well, I say almost definitely, going to have a Greenwood address. If you're in the middle school central district, you could have a Greenwood address, or you could wind up with a Bargersville address. It really just depends. And there are some tax implications when it comes to property taxes between the two cities. But again, we're not getting into that here. We're just focusing on school districts today. Now, I've said I taught on both sides of the district. So here's what I know about middle school north and middle school central. First of all, they're both Trojans. Yep, they kept the same nickname as the high school so that there's an easy transition. It also helps when it comes to buying clothing for your kids because they're going to have Trojans on their middle school stuff and they're also going to have it on the high school stuff. So don't have to necessarily buy new things when you go to the high school. So that's nice. Middle School North is newer than Middle School Central. In fact, before Middle School North ever existed, it was just Center Grove Middle School that is now Middle School Central. I'm assuming they called it Central because eventually they believe that there's going to be a third middle school, which logistically would put it at the south end of the school district. So they would probably call that one Middle School South. But as far as I know, there aren't any definitive plans on the books to construct a third middle school. But I know a lot of people in the Center Grove district do call for that, especially when it seems like the two middle schools wind up being overcrowded. But I digress. Middle School North is a newer building. It was completed somewhere back between, I don't know, around 2005 to 2008. I don't know the exact year. You could look it up. Middle School Central was built well before that and used to, like I said, house all the middle schools for the whole district. So it's an older building. Both of them have been updated very nicely. They all have updated tech. They have revamped Middle School Central and even some of Middle School North to make it more modern and fix things that have, dilapidated over the years. But what I'm saying is, structurally, there's really no difference between the two buildings. And because they're both in the Center Grove School District, they follow the same timeline of things. Everyone has the same calendar, duh. But when it comes to curriculum, all the schools have to have the same curriculum depending on what grade levels they're teaching. So the teachers from both schools wind up getting together to map out what it is they're going to be teaching and when. And so it doesn't really matter which school you wind up at when it comes to the academics of it. You have great teachers at both schools. You have bad teachers at both schools too. That's just the reality of a school. But as far as curriculum goes, they're all doing the same stuff. Now, when it comes to buying a home in Center Grove, this is where numbers matter. When we're talking about schools, not a huge difference between the academics that the kids are going to get no matter what school they go to. You might get into commute when it comes to getting to the high school in the later years, but school is school, especially in the same school district. But if you want to buy a house, how do you determine which area you want to look at? Now, a lot of this does depend on finances because there is a definitive difference between the cost of homes in the middle school north section versus the middle school central section. So if we're looking at the middle school north side of the district, so again, this is primarily Greenwood. There may be a few Bargersville addresses here or there in middle school north, but for the most part, we are definitely talking about Greenwood. So I did a deep dive into home sales, and I went as far back as January 1st, 2025, all the way through the end of March 2026. So these are the statistics that came out of that research. In the middle school north side, the median price for a home is around 400,000. And yes, especially for first-time home buyers, that can be extremely pricey and may not work. But rest assured, these are all averages, generalizations, and yes, you're going to find some that are more expensive, you're going to find some that are less expensive, but I'm just giving you a general idea. The entry point homes in the middle school north side is around the $200,000 to $300,000 range. Now, what you're going to find on the middle school north end versus the middle school central side is age of homes. Middle school north is pretty much landlocked at this point. You're not seeing a lot of construction going on the middle school north side because there just isn't space. They've run out of land as far as I can tell. So you're not going to find many, if any, new neighborhoods that have been constructed in the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. So you're looking at homes that are older, they're more mature. And because the homes are a little bit older, they tend to be less expensive than what you're finding in new construction areas, which is down in the middle school central area. Now, lower priced home sometimes means you have more expenses when it comes to repairs or updates that need to be made. Some of the homes in the middle school north section were built back in the 80s, maybe even as far back as the 70s, and then up through, the 90s into the early 2000s perhaps, but not a whole lot are newer than that. And so when you look back at the history of architecture, well, back in the 70s and 80s, homes just weren't as big. They're laid out significantly different than homes are now. Hopefully, the people who have lived there have made some updates to their homes, cabinets, flooring, roofing, all that kind of stuff. But just know that you're likely looking at homes that are going to be older, which tends to make them a little less expensive. And like I said, the entry point for homes in the north side is anywhere between about 200,000 to 300,000. Now, if you're a first-time home buyer, or if you are a buyer with no kids who wants to be in Center Grove because you're eventually going to have kids and go to those schools, well, I would recommend maybe starting your search in the middle school north area. You're going to find homes that are likely cheaper. They're going to be a little bit smaller. You're going to have mature trees. You're going to have mature neighborhoods. And it's a better entry point, depending on your finances, of course. But when we're talking first-time home buyers, usually talking about people with not as much money. All right, now let's switch and talk about the middle school central side. Now, middle school central, the median price of the homes on that side of the district is around $530,000. Now, if you recall, I said it was $400,000 for middle school north. So that is a significant difference when we're talking about the middle price point. Most homes in the middle school central section sold between 350 and 600,000 or more. Now, on the middle school central side, like I said, you're going to find homes that are newer. Are there older homes? Absolutely, because the district has kind of shifted here and there as new construction and neighborhoods change and population changes. So yes, there are homes on the middle school central side that have been there since the 80s, but the newer homes, because there's more land available in the middle school central section, that's where new construction is happening. In fact, right now in the middle school central side of the district, there are several new construction neighborhoods that are being put up. So you're going to find Lennar and D.R. Horton and M.I. Homes and several others that are building brand new homes. What we're finding with brand new homes is they tend to be larger. Not only larger homes with more square footage, but also larger in terms of their lot size. Where the older district of Middle School North, the lot sizes are smaller, you don't have quite as much yard space. Well, as you get farther down into Bargersville, there's a lot more space to build homes, and so they tend to put homes on larger lots. Oh, by the way, that costs more. The lot is more expensive, the home to fit on that lot is more expensive, and that's just the reality of the situation. Now, I'm not saying that first-time home buyers can't afford to live on the middle school central side, because they certainly can. It all depends on your income. But what you want to make sure that you do is talk to a lender, figure out what your price point is. I wouldn't necessarily suggest you max that out because then you're scraping for pennies every month when your mortgage is due, but find something with a comfortable payment for you and use that to help you decide if you're heading towards middle school north or middle school central. And I want to say this when it comes to buying a house in terms of thinking of school district. Like I said earlier, it depends on the phase of your life. But very few people buy a house in 2026 and it's their forever home. And I do hear that term a lot. Oh, this is going to be our forever home. You know what? On average, people wind up staying in their house anywhere between about 5 to 9 or 10 years. Well, if you don't have any kids yet and you bought a house and you had a kid within the first year, you're not needing them to go to elementary school for another 5 or 6 years. There's a chance by then you're going to be ready to move. Life happens. People get new jobs, people get upgraded in their position at their job, and so now they're making more money, and maybe you can afford a more expensive home later on, thus a bigger home. But I don't want you to get so caught up in the idea that this is going to be our forever home, because that term just isn't really a real thing. All right, so now I've talked about the two sides of the district, but let's just break this down, because if you have a particular budget in mind or you have a price point in mind, this is a suggestion anyways. Now, if your budget is between 250 and 300,000, you're most likely looking at the middle school north side. Are there homes within that budget on the central/south side? Absolutely. It just takes a bit more diving to find them. Middle school north, you're going to find more homes available that come up for sale in the $250,000 to $300,000 range. But you're going to be older homes, and inventory is going to be limited because the new construction isn't happening there. And so you're just waiting for somebody to finally put their house on sale. Now, if we bump that up and go $325,000 to $400,000 range, that does give you more options in the middle school north section, because now you've opened up your budget and might be able to afford a larger or more updated home. There are still limited homes available at that price point in the middle school central range. I do know that some of the home builders do have homes that fall between $325,000 and $400,000. D.R. Horton, I know specifically, has homes that are within that price range, and home builders right now are offering some great incentives when it comes to your interest rate and down payment and incentives that they pay for, such as your closing costs and appliances and things like that. So that might be something you want to consider, even though you're a first-time home buyer possibly and you thought, oh, I can never buy a new home. Yeah, you might be able to. All right, let's bump it up again. If you're looking in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, you have very strong options on both sides of the district. Again, in the middle school north side, you're looking at probably some larger homes with some definite updates, maybe an in-ground pool, something like that. In the middle school central side, you're looking at new construction. You're looking at maybe some of the smaller homes, but they are in the central side of the district. Maybe some of the older homes that are in the central side of the district. That would probably be closer to middle school central as opposed to farther out as you go south. If your budget is $500,000 or more, I'm not saying you're not going to find that on the middle school north side, but you're definitely going to find that on the middle school central side. I've seen homes on the middle school central side that come out over $1 million. And so you're talking about significantly large homes with large plots of land. And there are just more of them out there because there's just more space for homes that size. All right, with all that information, how do you decide? Well, first and foremost, it should come down to your budget, because the cost of the home broken down into what your monthly mortgage payment is going to be should always determine what kind of house you should be looking for. Because in the end, you have to be able to afford the monthly payment and still have money left over for other things like utilities and gas and food and just life in general, right? So if you have a tighter budget, I would probably recommend you're probably looking more at the middle school north side, because the homes tend to be at a lower price point. They're more established neighborhoods, and one of the nice things about the middle school north side is you are closer to shopping and restaurants. Now, middle school central side, especially as you get farther down towards the southern end of the district, there is new construction going on down there with new restaurants and businesses coming in. And so that is definitely going to evolve in the coming years. But as far as established restaurants, shopping, grocery stores, things like that, middle school north is definitely closer to all of that. If you're looking at new construction, well, you're probably going to wind up on the middle school central or southern side of the district, because like I said, there are at least 3, probably even more builders that are working neighborhoods down there. I know that there are some custom builders in the area that are putting up homes, and so the middle school central side is probably where you're going to wind up with a higher budget. If you're trying to get into Center Grove schools, the biggest mistake I see is buyers only focusing on the school district and not realizing how much the location within the district affects their options. Your budget doesn't just decide if you can buy here, it decides where you live. Subscribe if you're trying to figure out what you can actually afford in the Indy area. I break it down every week. If you need more in-depth information about Center Grove schools, I'm a good resource for that as well. You know what to do. Call BQ. Thanks for watching.